Welcome back to the MetaMinds podcast, where we help you master your mindset. My name is Dan, and I'm a qualified counselor.
And my name is Eamon, and I run a full-time video production business.
Very nice. And today we're actually talking about projection. But before we get into that, we do actually have a link to Audible. And if you want to sign up, then you get 30 days for free and a free audiobook. Currently, I'm listening to Flip the Script, which has been fascinating. And
I am listening to The Road Less Stupid, which is really, really good. Dan, I'm gonna tell you about that afterwards. I'm gonna make you listen to it because it's so good. But guys, we've listened to so many audiobooks this year. It's been a phenomenal growth, self-development tool for us. So have a free audiobook on us.
Yes, fantastic.
So Dan, what are we talking about today?
Projection. So what we mean by that is it's quite a I guess, deep concept, or like a concept that's hard to explain. We're trying to figure out an easier way to explain it. But it's the idea that all of us experience our own life in whatever way it is. We all have our own perception. We all have our own truth and our own reality. And sometimes you'll notice you will unintentionally project yourself onto someone else, or someone else will project that onto you. So to kind of make that a little bit easier to understand, like if I believe that going to the gym is the greatest thing that you can do and it will enhance your life, I can then kind of live in that truth and then try to project that idea onto other people and go, Eamon, come to the gym. Like, you need to come to the gym, man. Like, what are you doing with your life? And that's me like trying to project something onto you. And it could be coming from a good place because I believe it's good and I believe it's beneficial. But it's more so like when it becomes a negative thing that is a problem, and you just need to be aware that everyone has an opinion. At the end of the day.
That's it. All right, the podcast, so we're wrapping up here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
No, but see, like, there is negatives to you saying that the gym is the best thing ever as well, because, like, I might not be in a position where I'm ready to actually go to the gym, or, you know, I might have just been in a car accident or whatever, or I might be nervous to go to the gym because there's other people working out there or whatever it is. And so you trying to say that is actually making me feel worse about it, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever the situation is kind of thing. So it's like, even though you can project and manage people's expectations in a positive way, it can have negative ways.
Definitely.
So part, like, the main purpose of this episode is, like, you know, for ourselves, but also for our listeners, is like to be aware of how other people project onto you, but also to be aware of how you project onto other people, because it's really, this is how everything is influenced, and your whole life can change because someone has an opinion about something, really.
Yeah, definitely. So, and I guess, like, if you really try to break it down, and I'm not going to do it for myself right now, but like if I try to break down like the experiences that I've gone through in my life, the different institutes that I've been exposed to, whether that's university or school, or whether like it's different like peer networks, or even like my family interactions, like all of those things have created Dan, right? All of those experiences have created a form of identity that I have grabbed onto and taken the most meaningful things out of that. So then to me, like, that is my truth. But the reality is everyone has a different experience of life. Everyone has different interactions. And I noticed myself doing it like only recently as well, as it kind of come to my attention more. But like, I am quite a positive person. So I try to, like, you know, put people into that positive space and help them out. But again, like, that's me projecting again. Like, if I'm trying to help you, like, why am I trying to do that? Like, why am I trying to project that onto you? Maybe it's one of my values. Maybe I see that as an important thing. But again, that's a form of projection. Like, everything I'm doing, really, every interaction potentially could have projection involved.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing is, yeah, as I said, like with the gym example as well, it's like you being positive, like, you know, I might be in a negative space right now, I might be feeling a little bit depressed or whatever, and you trying to bring me up and be positive to me is actually killing my vibe even more, because I'm like, why are you like so positive? And I'm just trying to, you know, I'm just trying to like be negative right now, and I don't want help or whatever it is. I don't want to be helped out of this thing. So you actually projecting, just trying to be nice, trying to help someone, it's actually making it worse for me.
For sure, yeah.
So
for sure. And I guess like that all comes down to, and I love this, like, this phrase, but read the room, basically. So, like, if I'm saying something and the other person's, like, not 100% gelling with it, they're like, oh, yeah, like, the gym sounds cool, but, like, I don't know if I'm in the right space. And I'm like, no, you need to.
Why is it that you're not in the right space?
Like, I'm drilling that even further. And if you're experiencing, like, depression or anxiety or imposter syndrome, like, whatever it is, which we all are at most points, it's, like, how is that helpful? Like, you know, I'm trying to push against something on you. So it is really, like, being aware of, like, communication and other people's needs as well. It's being sympathetic of someone else. Like, you know, maybe they've just come through, like, a breakup, for example, and you're like, the best thing you need right now is you need to get back out in the market. You need to go and find someone else. And, like, maybe they haven't actually, like, got past the breakup, you know? Maybe their needs haven't been met to move forward at that point. That's a random example. But
the other point that's seeping into this conversation here is that it's like your communication style is that, you know, if you are aware that you could project onto someone else, just don't say things so definitively, you know, where you're like, oh, well, maybe what you need to do right now is get into the gym and, you know, just express your experience of it in a way where you're not actually like projecting onto that person. So you're like, oh, that's interesting. My experience has been this with the gym. Perhaps you could experience that as well, you know?
Yeah.
So then you're not actually pushing something onto someone. You're not actually projecting your experience onto them. You're making it very clear that you're like, this is what I have experienced. And I find that, you know, people that I follow as well, and we try and do it here on the podcast because, you know, we're all learning, is to try and, you know, do it in a way where you can actually connect with the person that you're communicating with, you know, where you can like link it to what they're talking about. So someone's having a trouble and then you can, you know, express what you've experienced in your life about yourself, and not say anything about the other person. And then if they choose to take something on about that, they do, you know? And again, that's the whole point of this podcast, is like, we're not pretending to be experts on anything, you know? We both have expertise in particular fields, and we bring it together and trying to make something out of it, trying to put positivity out in the world. We're projecting.
Yeah, we are.
And if people choose to take positivity out of that, they can. And if they don't, then they don't, you know? But this is just us expressing how we feel kind of thing. So, yeah, to address the other thing that you were talking about there, it comes down to a lot of like, yeah, your communication style, really, as well. And that's like awareness of how you project on other people, you know?
That's exactly right. And like, you know, when you really do break it down, and if like for the listeners out there, like for some people, this could potentially be a new concept. And it was like a relatively new concept to me, the idea of like projecting onto people. Like I've always recognized, well, not always, but like for a long time, I've recognized that, you know, people experience things in completely different ways. And like however they construct their truth basically is how they experience certain things, or they have, you know, ideas about certain concepts or whatever it may be. Like, it's developed over time, and that can change as well and evolve and whatever else. But I guess like it's the idea that pretty much everything, like if you were to really break it down and recognize like what you're saying to someone, like it can come across as like a form of projection. And when I've noticed through my counseling as well, like people don't necessarily, and this is just like from my experiences and from what I've seen, like people don't really want to be told what to do as well. Like they never want to, because then the ego flares up and goes, no,
Gets defensive.
I don't want to do that. But if they actually come up with it on their own, and like you said, if you phrase it in a way to say like, oh, well, I've really enjoyed the gym this last year. Like, you know, I've gained so much out of it. I've met a lot of awesome people. It's like, have you ever thought about doing something?
Can you stop pushing the gym on me, Dan?
Are we going after this? That's what I'm saying. But yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting because like when you really break that down, and when I think about some conversations I've had, I'm like, I wouldn't see that as projection, but it is.
Yeah.
And again, like it can be positive and negative, and it kind of does come from a place of like ego, because you think that you're potentially so right that this is the right move, basically.
Well, like everyone has a need to feel significant.
Right.
You know, and if you can recognize that in yourself and other people, you know, for example, you like say the gym's had a profound effect on your life, you know, you just want to let another person know that you're like, oh my God, like this is what I've experienced, like, let me, you know, and so you're like, you need to do this because that's what's happened to me, and it must be the same for you. And I'm so guilty of this. There's so many times where I've recognized that I've done this, and I've pushed someone into an experience. It's happened to us recently, and because I projected that experience onto that person.
Right.
So this is so hilarious because the context is just anyway.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, I'm like, no, but this is what you'll experience, and this is how it's going to be, and this is why you have to do that thing. You know.
Yeah.
And it's like me totally projecting that experience onto you, and it could be the same with the gym. It's like, no, it's going to be profound or whatever, and then the experience just turns out to be totally different, which it will be regardless. You know, they're not going to have that exact same experience. They're not going to have that experience where the gym's just amazing for them or whatever. It's like, so I forgot what the original point was that I was saying basically.
But that's very valuable what you said though, for sure. Like,
you're just so passionate. You want to feel significant.
Yes.
You know, you want the other person to feel what you felt.
Yes.
And you just care. You know, but you pushing it on them is actually like could have a completely different effect and flip their life around. Like that's what.
Well, that's it. And like what that says to me is like potentially it could be really coming from an amazing place of good intentions. Like you could just be saying it because you're like, hey, I've gained a lot from it. I think you could.
Yeah.
But it's all in the idea of like we're all on our own journeys, and kind of just being a listening ear potentially could be more valuable than you going like, hey, this is an idea I have. You should do it.
Yeah.
Because you're pushing an opinion or an idea which may not resonate with them. So. And I'm sure for most people it comes from a good place for the most part.
And like, you know, this is why the coaching space has kind of blown up so much recently, is because like a lot of people do need someone to actually tell them what to do. But it's like, unless they kind of ask you, it's like, hey man, what do you think I should do in this situation? I'm really struggling. And that's when you can say kind of like, if I was in your situation, this is what I would do. Because then if they take action, it's not on you. You're not like, you need to do this, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like sometimes they need someone to motivate them or someone to be their coach kind of thing, which is why you're a counselor. And this is why, the personal like development space is blown up, because a lot of people, they need someone to kick them up the arse and say, hey, you need to do this. Why aren't you doing this? And it could just be like, wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym every day, whatever it is, you know?
Sure.
But it's like some people do need people to be told what to do, but the context is very different if it's just like your mum being like, why aren't you getting this job? And you're like, I guess I should get that job. And then you get that job and 10 years down the track, you're like, I hate this job. Why? I never wanted this job, but someone projected that onto you that it could be a good idea, and all of a sudden you're in a situation. And you have been for years and years and years, and you haven't even taking the time to step back and go, someone said that to me and I've taken action on that thing.
Yeah, I've changed my entire life based on what someone said, basically.
And again, and
that's common.
Yeah, I've been in countless situations, and you don't realize again until you're like deep into it.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good at catching it out now, where if someone says something to me, I understand and I'm like, okay, that person said that. And that means that to them. What does it really mean to you? You know, it's like if I ask someone an opinion about, what do you think about this video or whatever, and it's like, I actually really hate this part of it. Okay, that doesn't mean it's bad. You hate that part of it, or you like that part of it. Okay, that's good. Or like, you should put it in the bin kind of thing. And you're like, yeah, I should put it in the bin. You know, people are easily influenced, which is interesting.
It is, isn't it?
Like people are easily malleable kind of thing.
Oh, for sure.
And because nobody has really any idea what's going on, when someone's like, with confidence says, this is what you need to do. They go, well, they said it with confidence. I probably should do the thing, you know?
Yeah.
We're just basic creatures.
For sure, yeah. And like,
we influence each other.
100%, man. And that's why, like, the thing that really stands out to me actually is to do with counseling, because even though like the counseling technique that I use is a collaborative approach where I work with the meaning of the person, the reality is like these people are coming to you and there is a bit of a power indifference. Like they see you as some form of an expert because they're coming to you for help, right? And no matter how hard you try to make it a collaborative, even playing field, there's an element where they're coming to you and hoping for some advice or help, right? So the thing that's interesting about that is you've got to be really careful in that position with projecting, because if they take that as truth and you go to them, hey, maybe you should do that, and then they take that and run with it, and then it doesn't work out for them, then there's the possibility that they're like, well, you've given me advice that didn't work. Like, what is everything else like not worthy or whatever?
Like, no, you took the action though.
Yeah.
It's not on me.
It's not on me,
You
bro.
did it.
Yeah, but like in really any position of authority as well, like, or anything, and like with a friend, that's a position of authority. If someone comes to you vulnerable and asks for your opinion on something, and then you like manage their expectations and go, this will happen if you do this, and you'll feel this way, and then they come out with a different experience of it, then like potentially they could take it in a way of like, well, I didn't get anything out of that. Like you gave me shit advice, basically.
Yeah.
So it really is like that balancing act, because projecting on someone, and if they see you as someone that, even just a friend that they trust, like if you said something to me and I did it, and it's like there's a possibility that I could feel a certain way because like you've given me this idea that I'll feel this way and I didn't, or you know, whatever it is, bad example, but that it really is like a powerful kind of double-edged sword where there's like the positive and the negative, and you're trying to like balance that. And I guess the whole idea of this particular podcast is just to try to be aware of it, right?
That's it.
Like that's the crux of it. Like,
and the fact that it can be so easy to manipulate, whether positive or negative, like someone's opinions and thoughts and feelings, and then their actions, in you know. And it's like, and it, you know, like the main thing is like we're talking about awareness here. It's like it can just be the tiniest thing that you said offhandedly and not realized. That it's like, you know, obviously it's so hard to be like
all the
crazily aware of everything that you're saying and experiencing. I mean, that's the end goal, right? If you're present, then you're basically a walking God, you know what I mean?
Basically,
because you're not in your head and you don't identify with your ego and all that jazz. But just all that jazz, I just flip
all
it
that
off to
jazz,
the side.
yeah.
But yeah, like just like very tiny things can manipulate people's environment and that kind of thing. And talking about environment, it's the same thing. It's like, you know, when it's a really dark room and you're sitting there all the time and you're also really depressed all the time, it's like, I wonder why those two things are kind of correlated. Anyway, that's not really on the projecting kind of side of it, but that leads into how very tiny little things that you don't realize can have a very huge effect on another person or yourself, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah. Interesting. So we've gone for 14 minutes. I don't know. Like, there's definitely a lot in there. I don't want to keep like repeating the same thing, but I guess in terms of maybe like we spoke about the awareness concept. I think one thing that you said that we kind of touched on, but it's more so like trying to develop your communication style, and it's the idea that like when you say certain things, like instead of, and you kind of said this, like instead of just being definitive and saying like this is how it is, it's kind of like you're offering a suggestion, and in counseling, like we refer to it as like offer something tentatively. So you just kind of loosely offer it, and they can either grab it or they can just leave it, right? But it's on them as to what decision they make. So they take ownership of that decision, where it's not like you going, hey, I'm a powerful authority figure, do this and you'll feel this way, which I don't really want to get into it, but I will. Like the idea of like psychology and psychiatry, where they like read the DSM and they have like prescribed things of like, if you tick this box and this box, you have depression. That's projecting. That's actually saying like you're experiencing this. And the reality is like, you know, they've had correlations between like grief, when you experience grief, and depression. And if you tick a lot of boxes on grief, you're then technically depressed. But you could have just lost a significant loved one and you could be experiencing grief deeply, but, you know, it wouldn't be seen as depression. And maybe you've actually got this label now of like, well, you're depressed. So then that's a projection onto you of how you're meant to be feeling. But the reality is like, you should be okay to experience grief. Like you just lost someone significant in your life. And that's where like counseling stands out to me so much, because it's like you work with the other person through the meaning. You try to like honor that loved one in a way so that they can live with them through your everyday life, even though they're not physically here. Maybe they're like psychologically here, or through mantras they live on, or whatever it may be, instead of just prescribing them as like, oh, well, you got depression. That's why you're feeling this way. Feel better, basically.
Again, we're simple creatures in the fact that we're like, oh, well, if we just put these different things into this box and then we can put that box over there, then we know what that box is and that box will stay there forever and we don't have to question that box, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, depression, usually you're like sad for a bit and, you know, I don't know. There's like, okay, so under depression, that's the depression box. And if you tick a few things in the depression box, then you have depression, and let's never question that box.
Yeah, exactly,
We're so simple. And it's like, it's the same as like, I say this funny analogy with my friends all the time. It's like, this is a chair and the chairs are for sitting on, but is it?
Yeah.
You know, you could flip the chair upside down and bash against the wall and it could be, you use it as a drill or whatever. That's a horrible example. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, we've defined this thing to have a particular use, and it actually is generally only really useful for that thing in this instance of a chair. But you could question the use of that thing and flip it around, and this comes down to like creativity and that kind of thing.
For sure, yeah.
So we're getting a little bit off topic here.
But no, I think it's relevant. Yeah, I think it's relevant. Because it is that idea that, and I guess you could really break that down to the psychology of humans and how like the brain's purpose or the brain's role is to like process things and make meaning of it, right? So if we place it into a category like that's a chair, you then don't have to think about it. There's less resources. There's, you know, you're not burning as much through your cognitive processing, where if you were questioning every single thing, your brain would get fried because you're like, is that a light? Is that a camera? No, it means something completely different.
Yeah.
But the reality is like we put it in categories because it makes it easier for our mind. Plus it also, for capitalism, it helps selling a product, right? If there's multiple meanings to it, then it's harder to market that.
Especially in this day and age where everything's so complicated. Like it is easier and better to put things into boxes and then you can identify with things with different things. And this is unboxing the ego here kind of thing. But it's like, it does all kind of relate back to projection in a way. And so I want to pose a question to the audience. Like, are you projecting things onto other people? Just have a think for a sec. Like, or is someone in your life or anyone in your life projecting onto you? Or has someone projected onto you in the past which has led you to a situation that you're in today? You know, like, question everything, dude. That's what this is about.
For sure.
I just have this vision though. I'm just going to say this joke while it's on my mind. It's just like, you know, police with like a riot thing and they bash down the door and they run in. They're like starting to arrest someone. They're like, stop projecting instead of stop resisting. So next time you're sitting with your counselor and he tells you have depression, say that joke to him and say, stop projecting. Get on the ground. Anyway,
and the riot shield is optional in that situation.
It's totally optional,
But it makes me want to play Call of Duty, mate. So thank you. You're projecting. You're projecting on me right now.
All right. Well, look, we've covered a lot in this episode. It's been quick, but a little bit of a short one today. I suppose we can wrap it up here because it's just a concept that we kind of wanted to present, and it's been prominent in our lives recently. And we thought it'd be very kind of important to kind of put that out there. And we're trying to think of a different way to word it, projecting. But I think it is really the best kind of word for it, because when you say something to somebody, you are putting your whole life experiences, which even if you grew up in the same suburb as them with a similar family structure and everything, you still have an entirely different perception on life and reality to them, which is like a really hard concept to grasp. But that's why I say it with such big, because it is literally entirely different. And one tiny experience when you're a child can lead you to an experience today, which leads you to saying something to your friend, which is from an entirely different perspective, saying the same thing.
100%, but no, that makes sense, dude. And like, to me, the thing, I always say it this way, it might not make sense or resonate with other people, but just recognizing that people are seeing the world through a different lens, right? And like you mentioned then, you and I may have similar values, right? And we may have things that we share. Obviously, there's things we don't share as well. But you and I are experiencing this world through a completely different lens, right? Because our brains work differently. Like, our neural networks are actually different. So there's no way that we can perceive something the exact same. So it's the idea that, like, just recognize that people have different lenses and don't hold things so tightly. Like, because it's so easy for your ego to react if someone says something and you go, oh, that must be right then. And then you attach to it. But it's like, just question everything. Like, literally, like, that's what it is. Question everything. Don't hold everything so tightly. Like, allow it to be malleable and change and be flexible.
Truth seeking brings me back to that episode. If you haven't heard that episode, I think that's kind of builds on, if you're keen, if you're motivated after this episode and you you do want to take some action, do listen to Truth Seeking. That's an episode that kind of leads on to what we're talking about here. Do you have anything in closing that you want to say to the jury? To the jury, okay. I think, just like this podcast, it's a journey, and to master your mindset, you need to go through the process of exploring your mindset, exploring your thoughts, exploring your feelings and your reactions to things. So again, like, this is something I've said in a lot of episodes, but be mindful of yourself as well, and like, don't be careful, because you're giving definitive advice now. Yeah, of course. So what you would say is, I would be mindful, right? True. Yes. Sorry about that, everyone. So it's the idea that, like, on your own, in your own time, in your own reflection, whenever you have the opportunity to do this, just, if it's up to you, but if you want, allow yourself to explore conversations and interactions. Allow yourself, if you want, to monitor it. And it's it can be helpful to observe these things, and whether you're projecting on other people or being projected on. Yes. But something I can say definitively, that if you want to master your mindset, this is the hugest tip I can give. If you want to master your mindset today, the quickest action you can take is to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and leave a review. Because I've had people tell me that as soon as they've done that, they just wake up the next day and they feel fresh and motivated. Yep. So look, I'm not telling you what to do. Do whatever you want to. But of course, all the reviewers that have said that to us have have had a phenomenal change in their life. So thank you for listening to the MetaMinds podcast, where we help you master your mindset. And we're a little bit funny sometimes. Sometimes, we try to be. Hopefully it's entertaining. We'll catch you next time, guys.